What is going on, Colts Nation, and welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Your guys, Cody and Derek, back with another one, guys. Hey, guys, so we're going to react to a couple different comments made by a few Indianapolis Colts players. We've heard recently two different individual players come out and talk about the quarterback competition, talk about Anthony Richardson in particular. And so I wanted to kind of start here with Josh Downs, hear what he had to say a few days ago to the media in regards to everything. And then just recently, Nick Cross came out and talked about and actually defended Anthony Richardson as well, talked him up. So definitely want to react to that one as well. So let's start here with the Josh Downs one.
You've met up with Anthony, seen him, or how?
I've been talking to Anthony a lot. I actually heard he's looked really good. We've been on different we're at different timings right now, just based off how last season went and all that. Just getting our bodies right. So just doing different things. But I've heard he's looked really good. I've talked to him multiple times, and I'm excited to see him next week. That's my dog. So good competition ahead with him and Daniel Jones. I'm excited for it.
I'm going to ask you, you have a new quarterback on the roster, so how much do you look forward to meeting him and also just the competition at that position?
Yeah, I've met Daniel. Good dude. Got a lot of mutual friends with him. Got some friends in the Giants. Great dude. And two extremely talented quarterbacks. And, whoever wins it, they earned it. So, but I'm excited. I came in with Anthony, so, I got a good friendship with him. Daniel's a good dude. I've heard he's a great dude from a lot of people, so I'm excited.
Josh, what's that next step for you now having a couple years under your belt?
Yeah, personal goals, but also just keep improving myself on and off the field. But yeah, I want to be one of the best in the league. So at the end of the day, that's my goal, and we're excited to see whoever's going to be under center helping us. I know Michael's excited, Alex excited, AD's excited. So we're ready to get it going.
Okay, so that one was obviously Josh Downs talking about the quarterback competition. Some interesting comments there from him. What were your reactions there and takeaways from what JD had to say?
Yeah, I know based off of what other people have said to what Josh Downs had to say, I think some people were a little bit upset that, Josh Downs wasn't a little bit more like pro Anthony Richardson in his comments. Just because Josh Downs got drafted with him, they're talking about, their whole connection that they had from the moment that they arrived in Indianapolis together. But, it's not, I don't think it's really that big. I think that ultimately, whichever quarterback wins it, Josh Downs is going to be still going to try to be the same player regardless. And, I'm sure that deep down, he's probably hoping that Anthony Richardson figures it out and will be the future of this team. But, he has to be somewhat like, just kind of thinking like covering all aspects of his response, basically.
Right. Well, that's what I was going to say. Like, I didn't feel like he was anti-Anthony. I felt like he was pretty supportive there. Honestly, he said he's my guy. We came in together. So I personally don't have any problems with what he had to say. But also, I think you're right. Like, you can't put yourself in that situation where, you're all in on one guy based off of your comments, but what if Anthony doesn't win the competition, right? And then, does that impact chemistry? Like, you just got to be careful with your words when you're Josh Downs. So I definitely don't have a problem with that. Whoever earned it, that's the guy, and they're going to roll with it. And I think that's probably the best response that Josh Downs could have there. So I don't have any issues with what he said there. He's obviously rooting for Anthony, but being that guy that he's had the last 2 years of connection with. But again, at the end of the day, this is a business, as we know, Derek. And, whoever the best player is, they're going to be the starting quarterback. And that's just what it is. So, yeah, no problems there when it comes to what Josh Downs had to say. But now we move on to Nick Cross, who was on Good Morning Football here on Monday. And this is what he had to say in regards to Anthony Richardson.
You play with Anthony Richardson right now, Nick Cross, of the Indianapolis Colts. He is somebody in Richardson that didn't play a lot in college. There was a ton to critique, and it wasn't his backflips. It was the way he played quarterback in the NFL. What have you witnessed from this young quarterback in terms of just the constant barrage of criticism?
First of all, shout out my guy Anthony, my dog. You know what I'm saying? Phenomenal talent. You know, one of the best I've seen, you know, physically, 6'5", 250, runs 4.4.
Mm-hmm.
Not as fast as me, but you know, at the end of the day, he gets out in open space and he's a problem. You know, elite arm talent, can make all the throws and everything. You know, he's a young guy. He's 22 years old. Someone who has a very, very bright future ahead. Someone who I wholeheartedly believe in. And, you know, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You know what I'm saying? Every great quarterback has had their ups and downs. You know, Peyton Manning, you know, led the league in interceptions as a rookie.
Yeah.
You know, Aaron Rodgers sat behind Brett Favre for a little bit. So, I mean, everybody has their own path. And something I learned from another great, you know, from my career, Stephon Gilmore, is always everybody has their own race. Just run your own race. So, I mean, I feel like, you know, at the end of the day, some people are a little hard on the kids. You know what I'm saying? Everybody, you know, everybody's path is different. He only played 1 year of college playing in Florida. But at the end of the day, he's learning at a high pace. He wants to learn. He's willing to learn. At the end of the day, he's an ultimate competitor. He always goes out there. You know, you see him in the New England game, you know, constantly running. You know, the Jets game, running guys over, you know, having guys getting up, wobbling in the end zone, you know, from all of that.
Right.
He's going to put his body on the line for the team. And ultimately, he's a great team guy.
Okay, so that was Nick Cross here. By the way, hello, Colt. That was Nick Cross there. A little bit more of a outright, like, I love Anthony. I love what he does. Like a little bit more of, he kind of, I don't want to say took a side. That sounds bad. But you know what I mean? Like he was very much in the corner of Anthony Richardson, his quarterback. He very much believes that AR, you know, I think he said it's not a matter of if, but when it comes to Anthony Richardson. So that's a pretty glowing compliment there from Nick Cross there. So what were some of the things that you took away from his comments here on Good Morning Football?
Well, another aspect to it that I think a lot of people don't know about the comments from Nick Cross is, Cody, I mean, Nick Cross was also a kid that very young when he gets drafted, right? And there was all these expectations he was going to come in right away, be the next potential great safety for the Colts. And then just this last year, you know, his third season in the NFL, he finally gets his chance to, you know, be that guy when there's an opening, right? And, you know, he had to learn to be a pro too, right? Nobody ever doubted that Nick Cross had talent, but to be a full-time starter, he had to be mentally better. He had to be a better practice player. He had to just be a better football player in general to be where he's at. Now, obviously, it's not the same as a quarterback of an NFL franchise, but it's the same process. Nick Cross had to figure it out. It took him 3 years to figure it out, but he finally did. And Nick Cross now is going to be a full-time starter on this roster for at least the time being. And so he knows a thing or two about it. And I'm sure that he probably understands a little bit of what Anthony Richardson is having to deal with. And no doubt that I love the comments that he made. He's very pro Richardson. And I love the comment, it's not if, it's when. You know, he was very adamant in that point that he's very adamant that Anthony Richardson will figure it out. It's not going to be a matter of if, it's going to be when. And, you know, he brought up the hard work and, you know, the determination to get to that point. And that's what's going to get Anthony Richardson to that point. So I loved all the comments and was definitely a vote of confidence from, you know, one young guy that tried to figure it out to another young guy that's still trying to figure it out. All in all, if you're a Colts fan, you love to hear that from Nick Cross.
If you remember, Derek, his rookie season, Nick Cross was a young player. He got benched, right? He got benched for the entirety of his rookie season after being the starter the first game or two, right? So, I mean, he understands it from that aspect too, which I think is definitely helpful. You know, a guy that came in and, you know, probably similar to Richardson in certain ways, he didn't know what he didn't know, right? He had some immaturity, he had some issues, and he had to sit the bench a little bit. He had to learn a little bit. He had to be humbled a little bit to get to the point where he's at now. And obviously, it's not an apples to apples comparison. I mean, we're talking, you know, a safety to a quarterback. That's definitely a big difference. But, you know, the idea of these young kids taking some time, patience is required. But again, like last year, we said it for Nick Cross, it was a big year for him, right? He had to prove that he was going to be a long-term piece for this franchise. And in the same way, you know, Anthony Richardson's sitting in a similar seat here. So if there's anybody that understands it, it definitely seems like Nick Cross is that type of guy.
Yeah, you're right. I completely forgot about the whole aspect of Nick Cross getting benched his rookie year because he just wasn't ready. And you're right. So those two probably do understand each other from a bunch of different levels. But yeah, it's great to hear that Josh Downs is keeping in constant communication with Anthony Richardson. Says that he's been looking good in Florida, working with Hess and Josh Allen as well, and a whole bunch of other things. So all in all, I mean, we know it, Cody. It is all gonna this season is all gonna come down to Anthony Richardson. If this team doesn't have Anthony Richardson as the quarterback, this is just an average team. If Anthony Richardson doesn't improve, this team is an average team. We got to look for this team to have some kind of good and some kind of great in it before we can start saying that we're heading in the right direction. And if Anthony Richardson doesn't figure it out, then ultimately there's nothing really to go off of here.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to have to figure it out. I mean, no doubt, but definitely good to hear from a guy that understands it in Nick Cross, kind of his perspective on it. And I'm sure that's been helpful to Anthony, along with many other people who kind of understand it to some degree and have, been a part of his journey. So, man, I'm hopeful that it works out. And hopefully, having these conversations will help him round and turn the corner here in year 3 and become that franchise quarterback the Colts drafted him to be back in 2023. But guys, that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, be sure to smash that like button, hit subscribe, turn on the notification bell, all that good stuff. Guys, we are right around the corner from the NFL draft, so we're going to be having a ton of reactions. And actually, one thing that we talked about, Derek, I want to just kind of mention it in this video. We want to hear from you guys. We want to have some of your guys' reactions to the Colts picks here, especially that first round pick. So we're going to be coming out with some more info around that, but we definitely want to hear from you and get some of your reactions when it comes to draft night and some of the Colt selections here this coming Thursday. So, yeah, guys, let us know your thoughts in the comments down below, but that'll do it for this one. Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. And as always, go Colts.